Hello and welcome to the LMA Scenario Moment. My name is Aaron Spears.
And I'm Brad Hathcock. Welcome back.
How are you?
Exhausted, man.
How come?
Long weekend.
Oh, Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, Super Bowl weekend, but like Friday I took off. Didn't feel like working. It was the 5-year anniversary of my dad passing, so I tried to take that day off. Never
I
know
took
how I'm
Friday
gonna
off also.
feel. Ah, so you white privilege day off, huh?
Yeah, sorry about that. Is that tough for you?
It is. I kind of never know when I wake up how I'm gonna feel about that day, so I just try to take off just because. Do something fun. That way, it's like not as big of a deal. So we went down to the city and went to this Titanic display that's at the Science Center here.
Oh,
Um, so I did the Titanic Museum when I was in Tennessee, and so this is somewhat similar. They have actually different stuff from the Titanic that's there. Not as comprehensive as the museum I went to, but still pretty decent. And then went and had some drinks at the casino and stuff nearby.
I
So
may
it
may
was
have seen some of that on the Instagram, the gram feed.
probably. So Friday was chill, but then Saturday, in going into Sunday, well, Saturday I went out with a bunch of my boys down in the city for dinner and got kind of shit faced, and then came home. It was only like 11 o'clock, 11:30. Uh, Went to bed around like 1. My dog woke up throwing up um, at like 3 o'clock in the morning, so I got like 2 hours
Typical.
of sleep, and then was up doing shit for Super Bowl all day Sunday, and then obviously that went late, um, because it went till like midnight here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just exhausted today, dude. Like 2 straight days, basically very minimal sleep.
Yeah. What like we always say is one of the benefits of being on the West Coast is that I can watch the Super Bowl go into overtime and I'm not dead the next day.
Right, it's still 9 o'clock, like
Yeah.
at night when it's done there. So that's pretty nice. But I mean, it's fine. Like I'll just get some sleep throughout the week and see how it goes.
Well, we could talk about a few things today on this episode. We could do a little Super Bowl. I don't know if you have any thoughts on anything related to it.
I thought that the halftime performance was kind of whack. Like, it just really wasn't all that good.
They never are.
Usher's Usher's whatever. I don't like Alicia Keys like at all. Um, I didn't even know who that girl was that came out with the guitar. Like, no clue who she was. I guess her name is Her, like H.E.R. Um,
Uh huh.
Never even heard of her before in my
I
life.
me neither.
But then, of course, they broke out Lil Jon and Ludacris and
Everybody likes Ludacris.
Jermaine Dupri. Like they basically just broke everybody out, which is fine. The game was an
I like
interesting watch itself.
I like that you make it sound like they just like in case of emergency break glass and they just broke out all these
In
rappers
case
from
of
the 90s.
emergency, bring out Ludacris.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the game itself was kind of interesting. I guess this was like the 10th time in Super Bowl history that it was a 0-0 first quarter. So that's like an interesting stat, I guess. Um,
Well, that's there are games where special teams plays a crucial role, and last night, for the first time in recent memory, that seemed to be a factor.
I mean, I made $20 off the game from somebody.
Yeah, I lost. I lost about $20 or so on the game.
But
Um, but
even
yeah,
like people watch for the commercials, and even they like weren't all that good. But I don't know if you saw this. There was a Robert Kennedy Jr. commercial,
that was gonna be what I was gonna bring up. Yeah,
and he's actually apologized for it, even though it was created by a super PAC.
he apologized for it, but he didn't take it down. I don't think from his website. Um,
It was great to
it's a
see
really good
one.
ad.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. I don't know why he's apologizing for it. He shouldn't be.
Oh, because his family's pissed. But you know,
Fuck him.
first of all, I've never I old political ads are kind of like interesting, and it was weird to see that like political ads during the Super Bowl are like very rare.
Oh yeah. Well, it costs so much money to
It's like 700
advertise during the
million.
Super Bowl. So that's a lot of money to put into an ad, but you have a lot of eyes on it, and especially, the Taylor Swift effect. This was probably a very, very highly watched Super Bowl
Ooh,
because
yeah.
there's lots of young people who are obsessed with Taylor Swift who were just watching for her purposes, basically, and that now they all also got to see Robert Kennedy's advertisement. So he's getting out there to like the younger demographics and stuff. So who knows?
I think I read somewhere, and I don't fact check me because I don't know if it's true or not. I think I saw somewhere that like 20% of the viewership was like basically related to Taylor Swift being there at the game. That's a
Oh,
lot.
definitely, definitely. I mean, she brought in. I think we talked about this. She brought in like $330 million in additional revenue to the NFL. You know, um, people playing football and stuff like that has really been falling off because of all the CTE shit and stuff that's happened. And now the viewership is starting to get younger because of Taylor Swift. And football kind of needs that, believe it or not. Like, because younger and younger people aren't playing due to CTE. So now kids might start playing football again because of the whole Taylor Swift thing. Like, who knows? People do shit for so many stupid reasons.
Well, we live in a weird cultural moment anyway. And so if this means that like him and her like get married and have a family and all the Swift kids will do the same thing, then and that's how we get out of our uh what's it, birth crisis, population crisis,
Yeah.
then fine.
I mean, I don't know if I sent you the pictures. I think I did. All the decorations that my wife put up in the house.
Yeah.
So everything was like Taylor Swift based.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. She
I
was
hated all of it.
playing Taylor Swift music.
Oh god.
Like, I mean, all of it. It was just hardcore, like Taylor Swift shit. And it boggles my mind. Like, I don't understand how you could be so obsessed with one person. And it's not just her, some of her friends too. Like, just super obsessed with Taylor Swift. I don't get it. Like, to the point where it almost seems like it would be a problem.
Well, when somebody doesn't write their own songs or sing very well and they have to use technology to accomplish both of those things, you could trick a lot of people. So,
Yeah, they'll argue you because I think she does actually write her own songs.
well, I looked at the
Not
writing
all of
credits
them, but
on.
most of them.
I looked this up myself. She wrote like two songs on like an album of like 12 tracks. I don't need to get into it. I just wanted to make sure for myself that she was full of shit, and now I know Taylor was full of shit, so I'm okay. But another group of people that became randomly obsessed with her were the crazy right wingers who apparently thought she was going to endorse Biden after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and that Travis Kelce was going to propose to her. And those people are out of their fucking minds. They're
Well, there was
crazy.
apparently some like conspiracy theories regarding the NFL and the Super Bowl and Joe Biden. I actually haven't gotten an opportunity to look into that yet. I just saw an article about it maybe 15 minutes ago. So I'm interested to see what that means. But apparently he's like embracing this that he's using the dark
Uh,
Brandon
yeah.
to
He
kind of
said
like
like,
embrace this conspiracy theory.
yeah, we just like we planned it. I think is the post. Um, okay, so let's talk about Biden really quick then, because that's a perfect segue. Over the past week, I don't know why they thought any of this was a good idea. He mixes up he says that the president of Mexico is the president of somewhere else, Egypt.
Yeah.
He mentions a guy who was the German chancellor who died, French guy who died, got them
In like the
mixed up.
90s.
Yeah, back when he probably did know who those people were. And so these are three dead people. And then this report comes out, the documents report from that guy, the prosecutor. His last name's Her. And it's a pretty, uh, it's an interesting thing to read because they don't charge him. And they say
Right.
the reason why they're not going to charge him is because his brain is applesauce and no jury would convict. Now, it's a Republican who wrote it. And so people were like, well, it's not even like the document is like meaningless, but also it lets them off. And so they're having this hard time of being like, oh, our guy's free now. And also that's not true. He's not bad like that. Anyway,
Right, but
before you,
they're charging Trump though.
well,
So it's like
they dropped the charges against Biden for the documents though.
right, but they're still charging Trump for it.
Well, we don't know that yet, but probably.
Well,
It's not,
currently
it hasn't
there
happened yet.
he has charges against him for it, so they haven't dropped the charges against him for it.
I
And
well,
back when the whole thing happened, right, and they started to find these documents in Joe Biden's Corvette or his garage, whatever. They were like, well, he at least was like nice about it and gave us the documents back directly, whereas Trump lied about having them and then tried to like withhold the documents and like all this other shit. It doesn't really matter. You're either in violation of the law or you are not. So they both would be in violation of the law and should be prosecuted under the law. This is another instance where you're very clearly stating that there is two sets of rules. Just because you're the president of the United States, you don't have to follow the same laws that other people do, and that's bullshit.
he got off the hook, and then people are upset that the guy who wrote the thing let him off the hook. They're upset because he says like the guy can't even remember like his when his son died. He couldn't remember when he was vice president. This is in that document. Now they're pissed because it's in there at all. I'm like, you should be happy it's all that's in there because they recorded the whole conversation. I bet you it's a lot worse on audio.
Oh,
But
I'm sure it is. And, I mean, but we've seen that before. Like, he's always mixed up how Bo died. Like, he keeps saying that he was dead in Iraq. I sent you that video of him calling one of the family members of one of the people who were killed in Syria. Was it the Syria bombing? They've been happening all over the place. But as we know, three military members were killed in a bombing by the
the
Houthis.
Houthis,
The Houthis, dude. There's so many bombings going on now. It's hard to tell.
dozens.
So yeah, they were killed by the Houthis, and he called this family who was grieving their son or daughter's death and was like, "Oh, I know how you feel. I lost my son in Iraq." And it's like, "But you didn't. He died of cancer, not in Iraq." So, like, come on. And he does this on a regular basis. And
It's getting
people
worse.
were just like letting it slide, and then all of a sudden it's in this report by a government official, and now people are freaking out.
Okay, so that's the start of what I wanted to get to, which is he got pissed off and he went out and had a press conference that like night, and it was like 7:30 when he did it. So he's already in bed by like 4, like he's not up late. So he comes out on the podium and he just confirms everything in the report. He sounds disconnected. He sounds like he's
Yeah.
got applesauce brain. And then after all, he's muttering through all this bullshit. He can't remember where the rosary came from for Bo's rosary. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. And then he starts walking off the stage, and a reporter yells a question to him about Israel. And at that moment, you knew you might as well play the Curb Your Enthusiasm music at this point, because he turns around and goes back to the podium, and everybody in the back room must have been like, "Oh, for fuck's sake, what's he gonna do?" And sure enough, he basically said like, "Oh, Israel's being over the top or whatever," and it's like he's kind of contradicting his own foreign policy in that moment, and it's very embarrassing.
Well, it
and
is.
then they had to clean it up for the rest of the weekend.
It is very weird, especially given the timing. The IJC or ICJ, that international court, that we talked about, who was kind of investigating uh, South South Africa's claim that Israel was committing genocide in Gaza, and they found their ruling, at least, is that it's plausible that that's what they're doing, which is kind of a weird ruling because, like, you would think it's either genocide or not genocide, but they're like, oh, it's possible that it's genocide, and that was their like official ruling, which looks bad on the U.S. for supporting something like that, because whether you like it or not, we are part of international rule of law,
No, we
and
are international rule of law.
yeah,
Fuck this
and this
court.
international court. But
It's a
this,
kangaroo court.
sure, but basically, if they're going to turn around and say that uh, Israel is committing genocide, then
That's
that
not what they
means
said.
by proxy, no, they said it's plausible. But
Why don't they say
the point
yes?
being is because we are, as you said, basically we are the international court, right? Pretty much they follow U.S. precedent. So if they do find at some point that he's committing genocide or whatever, we're funding that. So that's that just looks bad on the U.S. if that's what
No,
they
it
decide
doesn't.
to do.
I disagree.
I don't disagree. There are a lot of countries that have been calling for ceasefires and stuff, and have actually been criticizing the U.S.'s stance on how Israel is handling things.
I don't know how they could handle it any better, if I'm honest. I would love for somebody to explain to me how that goes, you know? You get attacked, you have to get rid of Hamas. I don't know how else you would do that.
Sure, sure. So, there's not really any evidence that they've damaged Hamas to the level where, you know, they're gonna go away or be extinct in any facet. The tunnel system that they have underneath, they tout that they destroyed these tunnels, but apparently like 80% of these tunnels are still intact and usable. So they've really just done all of this shit and haven't really gotten anywhere.
I have to push back on you so hard here. First of all, there was an estimate that like 2/3 of Hamas's military has been wiped out since the start of the war. The reason why there's still so many tunnels left is that they they're finding them in places they wouldn't expect to find them. They're under residential houses. That one they had a whole UNRWA like facility, and underneath the school was where one of the tunnels was. They didn't even know it was there.
That's actually been one of the really interesting things is like
There's a data center
the
in
whole
there.
UN, like that whole like UN situation, and all like basically finding Hamas fighters that UN
Employees,
yeah,
UN
that were UN
employees.
employees and stuff, like which is pretty crazy, I'll say that. But
There were
that 2/3 number that you're getting, Breaking Point's actually refuted that and said that there's been no concrete evidence that to support those numbers at all, and that they
there
just
wouldn't.
release these numbers.
Okay, well, everybody's releasing their numbers, and that's why you
Yes, and Israel has a propaganda arm. We know that Ukraine does the same thing. Russia, Gaza, everybody has propaganda arms. The U.S. does it too. Obviously, the mainstream media. So it's kind of hard to tell really who's telling the truth, especially in this regard, because Netanyahu is actually very much hated now in Israel, and they are seeking elections to try and get him out of there. But he's saying, well, we can't have any elections until this war is over, basically. So he's trying to extend power, and
well,
we'll
there's
see
a war
what
cabinet.
happens with that.
It's not just him, but I also want to say that um, they are winning the war. It's been very effective. They've taken out a lot of leaders in Hamas, and they know that whenever they split the country in half and they went and took the north and they did all that, that operation pushed the Hamas leadership to Rafah, and now they know that's the final battle right there in Rafah, and
But
that's where all
see,
the hostages are too.
Breaking Points has refuted that fact too, that they've killed all these Hamas leaders. And they said there's no clear evidence for any of that.
Well then, the Gazans are lying about that too, because that's what they're saying.
It would, so we have to also remember, being propaganda, that basically any news that Gaza itself releases is an arm of Hamas, and we know that, that
But Crystal Ball acts like it's
that like
fact.
ministry or whatever.
Yeah, the
I
Ministry of Health.
see. I disagree. I listen to Breaking Points more than you do. I'm sure
I know you
because
do.
you
You
hate her
do.
voice, so you just ignore her
No, I don't
completely.
hate her voice. I think she's a
Um,
liar.
but she admits, like, the statistics that come out of there are probably not accurate because they're Hamas. Like, she understands that, and she's just reiterating the fact that she has.
Okay, Brad, but she didn't do it for like weeks. I mean, this war's been going on for like over 100 days now. It took her like weeks to even get to that point. I don't know. I don't trust them as much as I don't trust the Gaza Health Ministry of Truth.
I don't know where this goes. I don't. There's absolutely no way that they're going to completely wipe out Hamas. I think that's
You
like,
have to. There's okay.
we
First of all, you
we
have
we
to go
said
into
the same
Rafah.
thing about ISIS though, and ISIS is still around, just in less numbers. They're
Okay,
slightly less threatening.
after 10-7, there is no other option. There's no other option on the table. This is the only option. You have to kill them all. And I mean, I don't. All I know is like if Israel takes years and years, but they eventually get their guy. The IDF will eventually kill whoever they need to kill. But right now the north of the country operations are good. They took care of everything up there. They go down to Rafah now. They've told the civilians exactly where to go and what to do. There's still hostages. They just released 2 of them the other night, and they're going to go into Rafah and they're going to do the job there. And
They've
then
killed 30,000 civilians.
that is for Brad. Why it took 70 years for us to figure out how many people were killed in the bombing of Dresden, and you're gonna believe a big round number that Gaza says. They just say 30,000, 28,000, 100. They're round numbers. You can't believe that.
So turn around and take the same information and apply that to Ukraine and Russia. Thank you. Because you're sitting here saying, oh, Russia's lost hundreds of thousands, and keep going and keep going and keep going. Apply the same fucking logic, dude. You don't. You're
I
picking and
have never.
choosing shit.
No, first of
Yes, you
all,
are. You're picking
okay.
and choosing what to believe based on a bias that you have. What I'm
I've
telling
never,
you
I've never
is
said
I don't
100,000
have
Russians
one.
have died. I've never said that. There's no number. There's not a number.
Sure there is. There's plenty of numbers that are out there.
Oh yeah, you just said
It's just
30,000.
it's just
That's
choose
convenient.
it's just choose who to believe. And of course, everybody does rounding. Okay, it could be 27,500, and they're gonna round.
You know
up to
who doesn't do
30,000. You know
rounding?
why? Because it fucking sounds better.
Israel rounds down. Israel after 10-7, they had a number. They actually revised the number down. Why does that happen anywhere else? It's only Israel that has to provide the exact number of things that happen at any given time. And
That's not what I said. Do not fucking mischaracterize what I said, because you
oh,
do
well,
this
you
shit all
just
the time.
okay. Well, you
That's
just
not
brought
what
in
I
Russia
fucking
and
said.
Ukraine. Stay on topic then, at least. If you're going to bring up this 30,000 number, why don't you just stay focused on that number and explain to me why you think that number is accurate?
Because we're discussing I'm not saying it's accurate,
Then why'd you say it at all?
because it's data that's fucking presented to us, dude.
No, it's not data. It's a number that somebody goes on social media and goes 30,000, 100, 2,000. Just big round numbers.
I mean, these were in articles where they were citing, statistics that were provided to the U.S. government. So, sure.
Our media is so fucking corrupt. I wouldn't go near anything they report. Anyway,
Yet here we are.
I'll be on the right side of history because Hamas will be wiped out and they'll have to de-radicalize the whole fucking rat's nest over there and get rid of all those tunnels. And then at some point, there's going to be a day zero. There's going to be a day one. And at that point, it's
and that may be true, but it really depends, because Israel's rejecting a two-state solution. Like
Israel did say that
they don't want to be responsible for any of it, and the U.S. is trying to tell them that they need to be responsible for basically rebuilding Gaza and everything, and they're like, no, Why would we do that?
Why should they be? They just were attacked by that country. They're wanting to rebuild the country that they
Oh,
were attacked.
then why do we fucking have to rebuild Afghanistan and Iraq and all that
Well,
shit?
the point I don't want to talk about that. I have no reason. I have nothing to say about that. But I'm saying that there's going to be a coalition of governments, and at that point, maybe the day zero, or whatever, they can figure out what the fuck they're going to do in the Gaza Strip. Right now, I don't see why there would be a two-state solution to any of this. Who's going to be in charge of the other state? Who's going to take
Well,
care of the roads over there?
Israelis don't want Gazans, like they don't want to be part of
Not
Israel.
absolutely, especially after 10-7.
They're trying to get people to take them in like every country. Basically, they're like, you guys need to start taking refugees.
Well, nobody wants them.
No, of course not.
It's not Israel's job to take them. Israel gave them the land. They forced their own citizens out of there and said, you deal with it. It's you, govern yourself. And then they were like, okay, well, we'll build a bunch of tunnels and we'll kill your people. You can't live next to a neighbor like that.
No. Hamas did that. See, now you're generalizing to all
They elected
Palestinians.
Hamas.
Okay,
well, there's strong support among Palestinians. If you look at the polling that they've taken of Palestinians, not only that, I mean, there are Palestinians who've just straight up taken hostages in. The hostages have confirmed that. I don't know what percentage of the population of Palestinians wants or doesn't want this. I know there's a lot of them that hate it, but it doesn't matter now.
Well, no, it's too late. I mean, what's going to happen there is what's going to happen there at this point. It doesn't matter if it's considered genocide, not considered genocide, because the fact of the matter is that
it's not a genocide.
No, I that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is it doesn't matter if it is or isn't a genocide or whatever happens there, because it has to happen first, right? So like if it's a genocide, right, they would have to commit the genocide first, and then it's considered a genocide. Like it's already happened. It kind of like doesn't matter, right? But that goes for any solution that they kind of have. Like we don't know how it's gonna work until they start implementing it. But all I know is like the two-state solution that has quite frankly been pushed for I don't know what, like 30 fucking years.
Yeah, but it was all
exactly worked.
It wasn't like, real. Those are all fake negotiations.
Pretty much.
Even
yeah.
I mean, Bill Clinton basically said like, yeah, he played me.
It kind of is like fake negotiations, especially when, you're electing terrorists as your government head. Like that's all fake, because they're just trying to do what they can to keep planning terrorist attacks and shit like that. It's just overall, because we can probably just move on. It's obviously not a great situation for anybody, Israel included, because you have the world looking at you in a negative way, which you clearly don't want. The U.S., if Israel does something that the world hates, we're backing that, so that could potentially look bad on us, or it looks good on us. It really kind of depends. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of backlash here at home. People were putting,
I think it's overstated.
People were putting like ceasefire as like write-in votes during the primaries and shit. Like it's so stupid.
That ceasefire bullshit, by the way, is so disingenuous, because they've had 2 ceasefires in the past month on the table and they rejected them both. The Hamas did. I mean, all they're asking, they're just like, could you give us the hostages? That's all they want.
I think Hamas put forward some kind of like terms of surrender, but it required the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. It was
even more absurd
something
than
that they're definitely not going to agree to. Like it's just you're just negotiating in bad faith. You and I know things about that, so
I hope every Hamas terrorist in Rafah is dead by the end of the month. And by the way, if it was a genocide, it would have been over in a month too. And also all these people, the only reason the world cares what Israel's doing is because they're Jews. It doesn't have anything to do with anything else. Otherwise, they'd care about the 500,000 Syrians that were killed. Nobody gives a shit about the Syrians.
No, not usually. It doesn't
And
like.
that was a genocide.
It's so funny that in that part of the world, like even Arabs look at other Arabs so differently and like hate
They
them.
hate each other.
Like it's like they don't like nobody cares about Syrians. It seems like it's such a weird place to be. And the Middle East has always been. How long have we heard about the Middle East? I mean, growing up as kids, they remember it was like peace in the Middle East and like all that shit.
It has never been stable, although it's been more stable now than ever before. So there's that. I mean, because
Well,
Saudi
not
Arabia doesn't
now.
want any of this
not
shit.
not
Not
now.
this second, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, like Saudi Arabia normalized relations with Israel, which was huge. Saudi Arabia is building this city called Neom. Have you heard of Neom?
Mm-mm.
It's like the city of the future. They want to like modernize by 2030, and this city is like enormous, and they're gonna have like a ski resort in the middle of the desert and stuff. Like huge plans, you know. They want to make a new Dubai, a new Abu Dhabi, and
Well, you can do it with all
they
the oil money they got. So
you can, but like I said, you know, like oil's not gonna be around forever. They know that, and I think they also know that in order for them to do this, in order for Neom to be a thing, they need Israel to win this war, and they need that whole area to just settle down. Israel doesn't want this war. I'm not trying to continue talking about it. I know you want to move on. Just Israel doesn't want this. They don't want to send their kids over to the fucking Gaza Strip and have them dig around in tunnels and find freaking hard drives and hostages and jail cells. They don't want to do that.
no, of course not. And but I think you're right about Saudi Arabia. You know, because they're, I guess, technically probably the most stable Middle Eastern country over there. Um,
I mean, Israel tries to be. Israel's the only country with free and fair elections, the only democracy there.
yeah, that's true because Saudi Arabia is under a kingdom or whatever.
Yeah.
So I mean, but you know, they were getting funds from us to be bombing Yemen and fighting the Houthis for years, like for years. And that's like another interesting point of just kind of like world politics, right? Is like we're seeing all this pirate shit happening now, and the Houthis are like indiscriminately basically attacking ships, but it's supposed to be like ones that they think are for Israel or something like that. I forget exactly what they're saying, but that apparently is not true. I just don't think they know enough. Like they're a terrorist organization, and but you know they apparently have some pretty decent firepower from what it looks like. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know how they stockpiled all that shit up, but you know, it's all Iran proxy shit. Um, should we talk about Ukraine? You want to do a little to Ukraine?
sure.
What do you think about the current view that it's basically like the only way forward would be like give Crimea to Russia and then just call it a day? Because Tucker was over there. Tucker went over there to interview Putin.
But they kind of did that. Like, you know, they
Well,
annexed Crimea in 2014. Like, they kind of did that already, and so
I guess
that's not really
the
getting
area
any
around
better.
it.
Um, I think it makes sense, sort of. Like, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You know, my opinion on this is, you know, very much Ukraine has the right to defend itself. And this goes for pretty much any other country. I don't believe the U.S. needs to be funding it, and that goes for like pretty much any other country. Okay, so I'm across the board on that. Um, but regardless of how you feel about it, we've seen a lot of stuff from the Ukrainian side that's not great. Um, you know, a lot of money we're sending over there is getting corruptly stolen from people in the government of Ukraine. We're seeing some of those people get fired. We just saw the top general, I believe, of Ukraine get fired and a new guy brought in. And the new guy, I believe, said, we need to like modernize our tactics and everything. And we've talked about this before. They're very much fighting like a World War II style war over there, which just doesn't work in like for today. Um, so I guess you know it's weird because like depending on what you read about over there, like Ukraine's winning and then like Russia's winning, and it seems like mostly they're at a standstill for the large part. We had that spring counteroffensive, which the U.S. blatantly came out and said was a failure. Uh, they just got nowhere, and it's almost like World War One trench warfare. Like they fought in these trenches for years over what, like 100 yards of of like land, and it never really got anywhere. They basically were just sitting in trenches shooting at each other. Um, and it's kind of the same thing. Like the lines aren't really moving that far, and that's kind of what I mean in reference to that. Like the lines of defense like really aren't moving. So
Okay. So should we keep talking about politics, or do you want to do a little lighter item?
we talk about whatever you want, buddy.
All right. Well, we're about halfway through the NHL season. What are your thoughts so far?
It's been a surprising season for me being a Flyers fan. Like, so they're beating top teams and they're probably going to make the playoffs. It's looking pretty good. Um, from my standpoint, they need to be rebuilding. So I want to see them trade guys and not necessarily make a like a long playoff run. Um, but they have their GM, Danny Briere, who was a former player, said that he's not going to let this season deter them from the goal of rebuilding. So even though they're kind of overachieving, it seems like he's willing to make some deals and trade some people to get more draft picks for this year's draft. And I hope that that's the case. We saw, I think it was Nikita Kucherov at the All-Star game, just kind of like mail it in, and people are
That was
pissed
pretty
about that.
embarrassing.
There was just a big deal. Morgan Riley, plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs, had a meeting today with player safety, and an in-person meeting. So if it's an in-person, they usually get 5 or more games of a suspension. Well, so what happened was Toronto was playing against Ottawa, and for the game sealing goal, so an empty
He
netter,
slap
he
shot
took
into
a
the
slap shot,
net.
yeah, which people find disrespectful. So he got like cross checked in the head for that, and very blatantly, probably intentional. So we'll see what happens with that. I haven't seen the news come out yet, so I don't know like what the suspension is, but um,
That cross check, by the way, I've seen a lot worse this year.
oh,
It wasn't that
definitely,
bad.
definitely. I think the reason why it's being looked at so hard is because it was a disrespectful thing at the end of the game, like very intentional, and that's probably why. Like it was just, plus it's Toronto, like they have the largest media scene for their hockey team out of any team in the NHL. Um,
I liked it. I thought it was kind of I thought it was kind of awesome.
the cross check or the slap shot?
The slap shot. Because he's
Yeah,
just like, fuck you.
I don't see a problem with it. People find it disrespectful. But it's been
Of
an
course it's
interesting.
disrespectful.
Oh yeah, I mean, is it though? Like it's just
It's like spiking the football in front of your like opponent, which I like that too, actually.
yeah, but see that, like I like that, so I don't see it as disrespectful. Like it's just okay. I kind of owned you. Like that's in your
Mm.
face. So it's been an interesting season, I think for sure. Oh, I like that hat. Um, that new.
Mm-hmm. It was a Florida Panthers online store exclusive the other day.
Nice. Interesting. I love the logo. The color of the hat. Is that
It's an
like
ugly color.
yeah?
It's like neon yellow, but the
It
but yeah, the
suits you
logo's
though.
sweet.
It is a sweet logo.
um,
The season's been real interesting so far. Like a lot of
yeah.
surprises. We just saw Edmonton have a 16 game winning
Oh yeah,
streak
they.
come to an
Whew.
end. To Vegas, and like they were terrible at the beginning of the year, and now they turned it on, and I believe are in a playoff spot. So it's been a really odd year for hockey.
Yeah, and the All Star game was pretty lame. I thought it was pretty lame. I watched it. They did a new format this year, and I don't know. it was, I guess, just seeing like Justin Bieber in a giant pink coat is kind of weird anyway. Um, but yeah, I will say the Panthers did accomplish some cool things recently. They well, Reinhardt's at 39 goals now, I think, which puts him 3 behind Matthews. And then
He's in a contract year. He's gonna get
he
paid.
yeah, and
Paid.
unclear how that's all going to shake out. I mean, it, it's interesting. I might actually ask you this question. Um, so, like, a player like that is in a contract year and they have a big year. Is there any incentive for that player to consider staying with the team if the team's facilities, like say Florida, which they just opened a new practice facility not a month and a half ago, like brand new? I mean, is that like an incentive to stay,
If they
or is it
like it
always money?
there, if they like it there, some players will sign for a little bit less. So like Steven Stamkos, who plays for the Tampa Bay Lightning, he was testing the waters for his last contract, and I think he was offered by Toronto like over 10 million, but I think he took like 8.5 million to stay in Tampa. But they don't have state income tax, so just on taxes alone, you've saved yourself quite a bit of money. So it kind of depends, like if they like it where they're at, like the team, because obviously everybody wants to win a Stanley Cup. Florida has proven to actually be pretty good for the most part. So I I think he'll stay. The problem will be, can they pay him?
Yeah,
Because you have Kachuk there who's making 10.5 million. You have Barkov there who's making 10 million. I think you have
I think
Bobrovsky who's
Bobrovsky.
making
Yeah,
10 million. And then you go and you look at Toronto and you have Austin Matthews making like 12, I think 12 million. You have Mitch Marner making 11.5 million. They just paid William Nylander, I think like 11 million. And then they have John Tavares who makes like 9 million. So like you're just filling up your roster, full of high contracts. And the salary cap is like 89 million or something like that. So you're paying almost half of your salary cap to 4 players. So
yeah.
it can make it very difficult to put a good team together with all of that salary cap money gone. So
Especially
who
because the
knows,
Maple
man?
Leafs aren't going to win a Stanley Cup ever again. Um, so I was going to say on the Panthers, I didn't want to not mention that they accomplished 2 big tasks this year. They swept the Avalanche and they swept the Golden Knights. So
Wow, I didn't know they swept the Golden Knights.
yeah, they're I don't, I mean, the Avalanche, I mean, they shut them out 4-0, and McKinnon, they shut him down. Could be a preview of a Stanley Cup final.
Could be
Could be.
The Avalanche are kind of a weird team. They dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff. And they're kind of underperforming a little bit, but they'll be okay. They're Stanley Cup champions. They know what to do. Um,
Yeah.
I'm interested to see playoffs this year. I really am. You have the trade deadline coming up, which I'm excited for because I want to see what Philly does. Everybody's kind of like looking for a goalie, centers, defensemen, like obviously pretty much everybody. And there's a lot of like restricted free agents and unrestricted free agents coming up, and to see where those guys will get traded is interesting. So
Do
you
you
haven't ever really dealt with a trade deadline. I
know
follow this shit like religiously, so
now?
it starts on like one day and then goes until like you have until like 3 or 4 p.m. to submit all your trades. And
But we've seen already a lot of trades with like Kane and stuff. So
yeah, we
there's
have
been
seen
some moves.
some big moves with some centers. Elias Lindholm, I believe, went to Vancouver, and then you had Sean Monahan get picked up as well. And those are 2 big names that moved, and now you start to see the market get dictated because they both went for first round picks. So essentially, you'll see probably a decent amount of first round picks floating around, but it's interesting being a GM. Like I told you about the fantasy hockey league I'm in, where we have a salary cap and we can trade picks. We also have we get three prospects, which are guys that have been drafted but haven't made it to the NHL yet, and we can trade our draft, basically our prospects, um, plus players on your roster, and we have to abide by the salary cap. So we have to craft like certain trades, and everybody knows these players well enough to know whether they're worth the dollar amount that they have to pay them on to be on their roster. Um, and so we see that in the NHL. What does your prospect pool look like? Can you afford to trade a first round pick? So that's one of the things that they were talking about with Toronto is they don't want there's rental players, which are your unrestricted free agents after at the end of the season, and nobody wants to pay a first round pick for somebody that won't even be there next season. So that's what it seems like. People are looking at their minor league teams like Toronto's like, well, we don't have that many good players in the minors, so do we really want to get rid of our first round pick? Uh, the question is, or the answer is no, unless you can get a player that's going to be there for a couple of years to help you win a Stanley Cup. But like you said, Toronto's never going to win a Stanley Cup ever again. So
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that.
which is
Cancel
okay.
the parade. So another question I had for you that I've been thinking about recently. It seems like the NHL is in a good position to have more expansion teams. Do you think? Because I looked at talent pools of a lot of these teams, and like, do you think there's enough to go around?
See, I this one's weird for me because I'm kind of like a traditionalist. When they started doing things to like increase scoring in hockey, it's cool because I like a lot of the moves and the talent and stuff is a lot better than it used to be. But I I never minded like a 1-0 game or something like that. So the increased scoring doesn't really, it didn't do it for me then. Uh, but it's cool to see expansion. I mean, they they openly kind of talk about expansion just because they want to make more money for the league. Um,
There's plenty
and
of markets they aren't in,
yeah, and
like
they
Oklahoma
will.
City.
Well, if they're if anything, they're going to go to probably Utah. Um, they want to go back to Atlanta as well. So I find it hard to see somewhere other than like those two. There's been talk about going back to Quebec or adding a second team in Toronto, which actually would probably just
Yeah,
piss a lot of people off. So I wouldn't recommend doing that one.
yeah. I heard about the Toronto one. I thought that was strange,
But I
to say
think
the
a
least.
lot of it kind of hinges on what happens with Arizona. So a number of
Yeah,
things
man.
could happen there. Like the league basically gave their owner an opportunity where he has to go out and get an arena deal, and he's not getting one. So they might force him to sell the team. They can do that. They can force a sale of the team, and then the question is, do they sell it to someone else? Do they sell it back to the league? Because there has been multiple bidders for the Arizona Coyotes the last time they were up for sale, because the league actually owned them for 5 to 10 years or something like that. Um, and whoever sells the team is going to get a good amount of money. But we saw Ottawa sell for like 950 million. The next team that gets sold will probably sell for close to $1 billion. And then expansion, like you have to pay the league a fee for expansion, and it's gone up a lot. I think the Kraken was like 750 million just to get the team. And dude, that doesn't even include like the arena. Now they play at Climate Pledge Arena, which I think other teams play there. Um,
You know what
in
though? That
Seattle, I'm
one,
not sure.
if you were like a yeah, if you were like a an investor or whatever in any of this, that would worked out. The Kraken worked out.
So far, yeah. I mean, they've been making playoffs and stuff like early on in their existence, so they're doing well. But that's another reason why Vegas was doing so well. Like they came into the league and just started taking runs. They won a
I
fucking
mean,
Stanley Cup. Like, I mean, come on.
it's
I've been watching
crazy.
hockey for, I don't know, like 25 years, and I haven't seen the Flyers win a Stanley Cup, but I get to see Vegas, who hasn't even existed for a decade, come in and win a cup. Like, but that's what's interesting to me about the league. So I guess it's cool because it actually allows younger and younger players to make the league. So 18-year-olds who have the talent, um, and that pushes out older, less talented players and stuff. So the talent level technically, I guess, goes up because you got to fill out your rosters. Um, but this next team could be $1 billion investment. Like, do you want to invest $1 billion in a team where the league itself only makes like 4 to 5 billion? And you're like
I
you're
guess,
just hoping.
yeah.
So a lot of teams, because the way that uh, the like TV contracts and stuff work, like they don't have shared revenue from that like baseball does, which is why you see them play games at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to empty stadiums. They can still make money. The NHL revenue is like 4 teams is a lot based off of ticket sales. So like if you're spending $1 billion to get a team, um, your ticket sales better be damn good. Like they better be damn good. And Vegas, they really embraced the Golden Knights because it was like the first professional sports team to come there, and so they love it. Like I was talking to a cab driver out there, and we drove past the football arena. It was still being built.
Allegiant
Yeah, so
Stadium.
this was a couple years ago. Like they didn't have the football team yet, and but we were like, oh hey, like are you guys excited for that? And he was like, fuck them. He's like, we have the Golden Knights. He's like, they were here first. He's like, everybody's kind of just like fuck football because they have hockey. And like it's really cool to see that. And so I mean, I'm all for expansion. If they move back to Atlanta, good luck. It's like the third time that they would have tried hockey in Atlanta because there used to be the Atlanta Flames. Um, I I don't know, man. I think it's good for the league, but it's a lot of money. Like,
Yeah,
do
and
Mormons really fucking play hockey? I don't think so.
I think I told you this before, but Salt Lake City having any team is weird, but they love the Utah Jazz. I don't know. It's an interesting thought experiment.
And is
Okay.
that the only other team there? I think
I
like
think
professional team. I think they just
so.
have that basketball team.
Well, they love that fucking basketball team.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I
Oh,
don't
I
I don't know.
love the Utah Jazz in the '90s. That was such a fun era of basketball. '90s basketball, best basketball. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the playoffs are going to shake out. I haven't really looked at the seeding yet for the bottom teams, but
The Metro division, which is what the Flyers are in, is pretty close. Um, I mean, I'm gonna be really happy because the Flyers will probably make the playoffs and the Penguins probably won't. So fuck you,
good.
Adam. Um, they are kind of dwelling at the bottom, but the difference in points isn't all that high for teams. So the Metro is really kind of like a battle, but it looks like other teams are starting to pull away. So the
Yeah, the Atlantic I
Flyers
think
are,
is like 4 or 5
yeah,
points, and then it just poof, just drops.
the Flyers are 6 points ahead of the next team below them, which is the Islanders. So that's only 3 games really. And the Flyers did lose like 4 or 5 straight just before the All Star game, but then they came out of All Star game firing and they won 3 straight. Um, but yeah, I mean, you have between Tampa, Toronto, and Detroit, 61 points for Tampa, 60 for both Toronto and Detroit. So Toronto could just like not even make the fucking playoffs, which was great. They'll never win.
Uh, they shouldn't know.
But I mean, the
So
Central, like it's they're running away with it. Like Dallas has 70 points, Colorado has
uh,
68, Winnipeg has 67, and then the Blues have 58. So like,
oof.
yeah, like teams are just running away with it in certain divisions. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out for sure. I personally would love to see like the Stars and versus maybe not Carolina. Um, Florida would be good again. I'm tired of seeing Boston there, so I don't know, man. Like if the
You and
Flyers
me
aren't going to
both.
do it, obviously, then whatever. But we'll see. I
Well,
mean, the Flyers have been giant killers this year. You know, they've been beating some of the best teams and then losing to the fucking schmucks.
yeah, the Panthers have played so well on especially on defense, but their power plays are great, and you know,
A lot of
I'm
people were skeptical
and they're
about
healthy.
them because like they kind of saw last year as a little bit of a fluke, I
Uh,
guess, because
yeah, that was
Bobrovsky played out of his mind. Um, and it's like, can he do that multiple times in a row? I don't know, but they just seem to be a better team this year than they were that
they're
year.
better. Having watched them throughout the playoffs all last year and getting like really intimately close to them, and then seeing every game this year, like they're just so much better. Like especially when it comes to like just the adversity, and they hold on to the lead. I think they're like 14-1 when they score first, like something crazy.
Yeah, they play well as long as they stay healthy. I think they'll be a force for sure.
Yeah. Okay. That was fun. A little mid-season check-in.
Yeah, there you go.
Now that football is gone, and for me,
Thank
the
God.
uh, boy, that was a bad football year for me. But now it's time for golf and golf majors all summer. Yay!
So you're
The
just gonna
Masters in April.
be rolling in dough because you're gonna be taking
Look,
your friend's money and in gambling.
I can't lose a golf bet. I can't lose, but I'm man, the Masters for me is always like one of my favorite sporting events of the year because it's not about like it's not about profit or advertising. They live stream everything online for free. It's not really commercialized at all. It's just pure golf.
A
And
buddy
it's
of mine
just
was just at that Waste Management Open in Arizona.
oh boy. There was some shenanigans
It's like the
there.
second or third time he's been. He loves it.
It's a fucking party, man. They've got like that they got that par 3 where they've got like the arena seating all around
Yeah,
it.
that's on
Eh,
like hole 16 or something.
yeah.
He was there like sitting
Oh man.
in those seats.
I saw we as me and the other guy were talking about as purists, we're like, I don't know if I love this, but like people shotgunning beers and jumping into the sand traps and all
See,
kinds of crazy
I
shit.
do. It's basically watching Happy Gilmore in real life.
I told our mutual friend it's okay as long as they don't do it at one of the four majors. Let's keep those clean. But all these other ones, I guess I don't give a shit.
Why? Golf needs
Because
to be
the
more exciting.
not the majors. Those we keep the majors. That's different.
No, see,
Because those matter.
that
Those are the biggest moments in golf history
see
every year.
that's too old worldy. Like you gotta get with the times, man. It
I
needs
just
to
said
be
I
more
am getting with the
exciting.
times. Let them have stadiums in Arizona for their top golf bullshit, whatever they're doing over there. It's fine. Okay. Just don't touch the Masters. That's all I'm saying. Don't touch the Masters.
And I say touch the Masters. Who cares?
Ah, fuck you. Um. Oh, did you finish Resident Evil? Congratulations.
um, I finished it 3 times.
Something about those games, man. I do the same thing. I'll run through them multiple times. They're so
That one,
fun.
dude, that one's addicting. That RE2 remake is unbelievable.
It's so
It's
beautiful.
absolutely unbelievable. But I got pissed off twice now because I'm trying to get an A on a run through, and you had to be like under the first one. On the first run through is under 5 hours. I did it in 5 hours, 2 minutes, and 59 seconds. So I
LOL.
didn't get the fucking achievement, missed it by 3 minutes. And then I just did a second run through for Claire, and I did it in 4 hours and 4 minutes. So I missed the cutoff by 4 minutes because on the second run you have to do it in under 4 hours. So I missed it by 4 fucking minutes. I was so pissed.
Just so you know, FYI, Resident Evil 3 is also coming to Game Pass soon, if it's not
Yeah,
already.
there is
I played that
the
one.
remake, right? Like they,
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
I'm
I
pumped for
played it.
that.
It was hard for me to kind of get into it, but I also hate 3 in general, and they really did change everything. So it's definitely a better game. But you should get into that Resident Evil 4. Some people say that was the game of 2023, the game of the year.
That came out for Xbox, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, dude, I've been like addicted to playing Resident Evil 2. I still have to do Leon's second run through. Um, but
and
it,
then there's all the you get Ada Wong in that, don't you?
yeah. So there's bonus material for Resident Evil 2 and it's looks like some kind of time trial something or other. I don't know. There's like additional game modes that you can
Yeah,
play.
same thing with 4. 4 has like a whole Ada Wong, like you play through the game as her, I think, and it's like a whole different story. And then Resident Evil 8 also has a bunch of extra cool bonus shit too. Those games are awesome, man. Those games are
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, I will say I feel like Resident Evil has been a very consistent um franchise. Like there's not one game that's that bad. Like even
No.
Resident Evil 3, like you said, you're not the biggest fan, but there's never been a game that's that bad. Other than unless you count what is it that RP rat like Resident Evil RPD, the Raccoon City Police, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, you can play
There's a
like four player
there's some bad
multiplayer
ones.
or like 4 player co op or whatever.
But the mainline series, yeah, it's always been extremely strong.
Yeah, I mean, I liked playing Resident Evil 7. I liked playing 8.
Yeah,
Um,
the whole thing that like we're gonna make a first person version of it, and we're also gonna remake all the old ones, and those are gonna be fucking fantastic. And we're just gonna put out like a banger every year is awesome.
yeah, what's nice about RE2 is you can actually skip so much of that game, like because you don't, if you don't need certain things, you're just like, let me move on, let me move on. I mean, you have to make sure that you get the grenade launcher, but on my first run through, I never even went to get the submachine gun. Like
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
ran the whole game without the submachine gun, and I just did it with like the Magnum, the pistol, the grenade launcher, and then the stupid shock thing.
The Magnum is like a must in that game. Resident Evil 4 is cool like that too because you there's so many weapons and mods in it, and then you can only unlock a certain amount through playthrough with the money, and so you just pick a weapon and you kind of like you it's like your weapon for the game. You don't really get to use all the weapons, so it forces you to pick and choose. And then in the remake, they actually added like challenges into the game that weren't in the original. So like you get to there'd be like a note and it says like we have a rat problem, kill 3 rats, and you go find 3 rats to kill, and then you get like a little bonus money, and they
That's
have like a bunch
funny.
of stuff like that. Yeah, it's just fun stuff,
I wonder if they're gonna remake RE5. I
I mean,
remember
that's
playing that one
the
in college.
okay, that
Um,
one I beat 6 times, I think. I loved that game, and it I bet you would be extremely controversial because it was controversial when it came out.
well, because they were like Somalians or some shit that like you, and they had like
Yeah,
fucking what like snake heads almost. Like it was that was really weird. But that game was really good.
I
I mean,
love that game.
that was the first one. I think it was that one. It might have been RE6 that had multiplayer, and you would
Yeah,
like
it was
run
co-op.
around as like Wesker, and you get like the Hydra shotgun where it has like 3 barrels on it.
That's so
And
crazy.
yeah, like you'd be running around basically like team deathmatching and that shit. And that was a really weird ad for Resident Evil, especially at that time because everything was, obviously this is prior to any remakes. Everything was still like tanky and you like couldn't even run and shoot. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
through what Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, like you
3.
couldn't even run and shoot. You had to like plant yourself, shoot,
You're like
and then run away.
and then 4 was actually like It
See,
was a
that one I never
GameCube
played.
exclusive.
Right.
So yeah, so that one's the one where like you couldn't really play it unless you had a GameCube.
So that's why you were saying I really have to get into it, and I do. I actually know nothing of the story of it or anything because I never got to play it.
It's equal parts like fucking hilarious. It's got some incredibly stupid bits in it that are so funny, but then it's also like really pretty terrifying in parts, and it's fucking fun, man. It's
Yeah.
just fun.
What's nice about doing this second run through for RE2 is like you just skip all the cutscenes. You're like
Yeah, you just
seen it,
play
seen
the
it,
game.
seen it,
Mm-hmm.
seen it. So you're just skipping over everything. And yeah, you're right. You're just running through and playing the game as best as possible. My second run through, I did go and get the submachine gun. It came in handy. I was fucking running out of ammo left and right. But I will say that game also has a habit of pissing me off. So at one point you're fighting the tyrant and you have to hit him with like this giant shipping container,
Oh yeah,
and it's like impossible to dodge him.
yeah.
And when I was playing as Leon and same boss fight, I had to do it like 30 some times because I had no ammo, I had no healing, anything, and I was down to one hit at the start of the boss fight. So every time I died, I just restarted for that one hit, and I basically could not get hit the entire boss fight. I died literally 30 fucking times. And then to not get my 5 hours because of like that 3 minutes, it's because of that stupid fucking boss fight. Or
You'll be
else I would have hit
better.
it.
You'll just be better the third time.
To be honest, no, I wasn't. When I did Claire's second run through, not really.
Her,
I I only
hers
died
is a
like
little
four
bit
times.
tougher. I will say on four. I just want to sell it to you a little bit one more time. One of the main villains in four is a tiny midget French Italian man named Salazar. That's all I'll
Nice.
say.
Well, I'll buy it. I mean, it's out there, so I might as well.
I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it. I need to get off of RE2 because I just keep playing it.
Oh, just bounce on to three. That'll be out soon.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. That was good. We
Yeah,
did a podcast.
we did the thing. Only took us
Cool,
2
man.
weeks.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
All right, buddy. I'll
All
get
right.
it uploaded tonight.
I will do the same.
All right. See you, pal.
Bye.